Hey guys, it's Lee with Steel Raven Farms. Today is kind of a hard subject to talk about, but I absolutely think that it's warranted and something that you guys need to be prepared for on your own homestead. Whether you are making the decision that you are going to butcher your own meat or not, that's actually not even a question. The reality of homesteading when you have animals is that at some point you may, and it's very likely that you will be faced with the decision of having to put an animal down. And, I've talked pretty in depth about, in my Goat 101 course, the importance of finding a mentor and or a large animal vet. And I'm going to tell you about what happened with one of our baby goats towards the middle end of this podcast. But to start, it is, if you are going to have livestock, and that is chickens, goats, pigs, cows, donkeys, sheep, whatever emus, whatever it is that you are deciding to have on your farm, you will more than likely at some point run into a situation where you are going to have to put that animal down. Okay. It's not a fun thing to talk about. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to deal with it. We want to live in a dream world, and you can literally talk to anybody that knows me. And I will tell you that I'm always going to be real with you, and I'm always going to be really frank with you about all of this stuff, right? Like, I am never going to sugarcoat something for you. I don't sugarcoat things for my kids. I don't sugarcoat things for coworkers, for students, nothing. You ask me a question, I'm going to tell you how it is. So be very careful about how you ask me questions, right? Like, I'm just going to tell you how it is. And when it comes to raising livestock, I need you guys to understand a couple of things. One, for the most part, dogs and livestock do not mix. Okay. But there are some caveats to that, right? You have livestock guardian dogs. You have, sporting dogs or herding dogs like healers and Aussies and stuff like that. And those are all fine. Those are dogs that, when trained correctly, will not hurt an animal, right? But the neighbor's dog down the street is going to come after your animals, and you need to be prepared for that. Okay, you need to be prepared for the day that one of your baby goats gets really sick and you don't have a livestock vet and you have no mentor, or you have no, like, the goat is really, really, really sick, or it's broken its leg or whatever. And you have to make a hard decision about what you're going to do with that animal. Okay. And you need to have a plan now. And I know it's harsh, and I know that it's not something that you want to think about, okay? But it is reality. You don't want to end up in a situation where you're trying to figure out how to kill an animal when it's hurting, when you are stressed, when the animal is stressed, when your kids are crying or you're crying. You don't want to find out too late that you were unprepared. And I think that is incredibly important to be prepared. We operate under the mindset, better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. That goes for knowledge, that goes for food, that goes for tools, that goes for all sorts of things. I would rather know how to put my dog down in an emergency situation than try to figure out how the hell I'm going to get a vet to me, or how I'm going to get to the vet, right? And so I always tell people it is better to know than not. And this is a very hard episode to listen to. It's a very hard episode to talk about because nobody wants to talk about animals dying. You know, like even hunters don't, you know, they don't love killing deer or whatever it is that they're hunting. They're doing it most of the time. All of the hunters that I know. Yes, there's a certain aspect of enjoyment in there, but it's more about putting food in the freezer or food on the table than it is about, you know, that trophy hunt. But it is still of utmost importance to know how to do those things correctly so that you are not in a position where, again, you've got an animal who is hurt, injured, stressed, sick, dying, and you're sitting there going, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And you are freaking out. Okay. So I'm not going to go through every single animal because, that's a lot of animals, but I'm going to give you some general guidelines. I personally do not do chemical euthanasia unless, you know, by a vet, right? I've had a lot of people, I've talked to people in the past and they're like, well, I'm going to do the right thing and I'm going to shoot the dog when it comes time. More power to you, man. I cannot do that. I can't do that. And I don't mean to laugh, but like, how in the world is that the quote manly thing to do? I don't understand that. That's out of my realm. But the idea of shooting a dog is outside of my realm, right? But if that's how you're raised, that's how you're raised, right? Like I'm not going to sit here and judge that. I am curious. And if anything comes across as judgmental, please understand it's more of a curiosity thing. And that's kind of where I'm at with that is like, how can you do that? Like, where's your head at? Like, how does that work in your brain? Because I know how it works in my brain, and that's not happening. So please, like, inform me. You know, I have genuine questions about this stuff. But that being said, a couple weeks ago, I have not posted it yet, guys. I'm still debating on whether or not I want to post it. I recorded the pig saga, and I did not go as in depth as I thought I was going to go, which is probably good because it's pretty brutal. But when I recorded it, I mentioned pretty in depth that I am not the person to kill a mammal. I've not been put in that situation, and I'm going to knock on some wood, and I don't ever want to be put in a situation where I am the one that has to pull the trigger. Luckily, you know, the different times that it's happened on the farm, Jared has been able to do it, and Jared is okay with doing it. It's not his favorite thing. He doesn't love to do it, but that is the mantle of responsibility that he has taken on, that, you know, if something needs to die, he is going to be the one to do it. But more than that, there are things before we get to the point of death, right? So let's kind of turn around and go a different route. When you have goats try to unalive themselves all the time. All the time. It is not uncommon for your goat to get her head stuck in the fence. Okay? Ursula, until she figured out how to use her horns, would get her head stuck in the fence all the time. She'd just sit there and scream and scream and scream and scream. The problem is that if we have a predator on the loose, whether that is our dogs, the neighbor's dogs, a coyote, a bear, no, I wasn't talking to you, Bear. You're good. You're a good bear. Bear sitting next to me, and I said his name. So anyways, when you have predators, and everybody has predators, right? It could be a person, it could be a dog, it could be, it could be a bunny rabbit in the garden. That is a predator. You have to be willing to take the responsibility on of caring for that animal, right? And part of that is predator control. And sometimes you got to make the decision. Am I going to protect my animals, my goats, my chickens, my ducks, my pigs, my whatevers? Or am I going to let this predator realize that there's a free meal here, buffet style? And you've got to make that choice. I cannot make that choice for you. I know what I think you should do, but the reality is that is your decision to make. And I know that if push comes to shove, I'm going to protect my animals. And I also know that if push comes to shove and I have an animal who's getting ready, who is hurt and injured, and I know that it needs to be put down, I will pull that trigger. But I'm not going to be happy. In fact, I will be a complete and total mess, because as much as I say that these animals are not pets, these goats are pets. They're pets. That's what they are. I can sit here and I can, say all day long that they're not, but they are. That's what they are. And so with that responsibility of having a pet, having an animal, having livestock, having, dogs and cats, you have to first be trained in first aid, right? And my day job is a paramedic, right? That's what I do every third day. And I have, through the years, learned basic first aid for, dogs, cats, whatever. And I have, since learned a lot more with goats, right? Like I took my medical knowledge of humans and my research capability and owning goats for several years. And now I'm like, all right, cool, I got this. I mean, I don't, because they literally try to kill themselves all the time, y'all. Like, it's ridiculous. You want an easy animal to keep, get a chicken. You want a bigger animal to keep that's a little bit easier, get a sheep. Don't get goats. If you want something that's easy to care for, I do not recommend goats. Okay, they are very difficult. I have a, it's a 4 foot wide, 3 foot tall, and I think it's like 20 inches deep toolbox, the big tool chests, right? I have one of those, and it is filled to the brim with supplies to take care of goats. Okay, we're talking antibiotics, dewormers, red cell, syringes, bags of fluid, all sorts of stuff. Okay, and that's just their day-to-day life. Then I have an entire box that I take out when they're kidding and doing all of that. So I am ready. But part of that is having a medical background, but the other part of it is having a medical background in emergency medicine, right? So I'm prepared for anything, and I can MacGyver something if I'm not prepared. And so I want you guys to be prepared, right? I want you guys to be able to successfully care for your animals, but also to be able to handle the situation at the end where you have to say, okay, I've tried everything. This is enough. But when it comes to dealing with death, there are preventative measures, right? We don't let the dogs into the goat pond, the goat pen. Okay. We don't let dogs into the chicken run, right? Then we don't have to deal with a hurt chicken or a hurt goat. I was going to say duck. To hurt duck either, There are simple, common sense things that you do to protect your animals, right? We put up fencing to keep the goats in, but also to keep predators out. We put them in a barn at night to keep predators out and to protect babies. We do these various things. We give them, sometimes you give them a vaccine if you have tetanus on your land, or maybe you disbud them so that you can make sure that they don't hurt each other and break a horn, get an infection and die. There are certain things that you can do to protect your animals, and you should do those things. One of the things that we're doing at this point is we are putting all of our chickens in a chicken run, and it's going to be a huge chicken run, because we are losing a ton to hawks. We've got a huge chicken hawk problem around here. We've got a vulture problem as well. And I don't know if you've ever seen a vulture come down and snatch a chicken, but it's rough to watch. Like, there's no way around it. It's hard because there's nothing you can do. Once that vulture, and I've never seen a vulture go after a living animal until we got a homestead. And so all of these things were like, all right, nope. This is it. So this winter we've got them sort of kind of penned up in an electric fence, and it's not working real well, but we're doing our best. We've got everybody penned up right now, and we're going to be building, when we redo our big garden, the fencing and all that, we're going to actually add a chicken run to that and, start working on that angle. But that's one of the ways that you protect your animals, right? You've got to protect your animals, because if you don't want to be the one to pull the trigger because your goat got loose and hung up in a trap and is now screaming its head off because it's hurt, its leg's broken, and it's stuck, it can't move, then you need to be able to, put them up, protect them. It's an either or here, guys. Like, there's consequences and actions. If you do not protect your animal, the consequence is them getting hurt and or dying. So again, you do what you got to do to make sure that your animals are safe so you don't have to pull the trigger. Now, unfortunately, there are still things happen, right? I was on a goat page a couple of months ago, and one of the people on there posted about how it was a freak accident. Absolute freak accident. I can't remember if it was, it's two totally different things. I understand that, but I don't remember if it was this giant rock, like a boulder, or a round bale, because I was just like, how the hell did that happen? And this particular goat kept getting loose, kept jumping the fence, kept, getting whatever. And the herd owner said, you know what, this is it. I'm not dealing with this anymore. And tethered the goat. Now we tether our goats all the time. That's not a big deal to me. That's not the part that got me. But apparently this person tethered their goat to something. I don't know what it was. And the next morning, or a couple hours later, I have no idea. I don't remember. But she went out to go check on the goat, and a rock or a hay bale, because there was something about a hay bale in there. I don't really know, had rolled over onto this goat and killed it. And I'm just sitting there thinking in my head, like, holy crap. Like, that takes these things try to kill themselves to a whole new level, right? And, the poster was like, I feel really guilty because had they not been tethered, they could have gotten away. And she said, but if I didn't tether them, they were going to, break their leg, jump in the fence. Cause I guess I don't know. So the reality is you have to start thinking about these things. Now with the pig saga, we had to make the decision that we either go ahead and process these pigs now, or they are going to get eaten by a coyote. That's where we were at. Right? They would not stay penned up. They wouldn't stay inside the electric fence. We were trying everything we could do to keep them safe. And our neighbor has coyote traps set up on her side of the property line. And the pigs kept getting loose. Pigs kept going over to her. I think she said at one point that the pigs were like practically on top of one of the traps. And she's like, I don't want them getting hurt. And I said, I don't either. And this is it was holiday season. So we knew we were going to be spending more time off the homestead, and we couldn't keep them contained. So we made the decision that instead of allowing them to get hurt and then potentially suffer, we're going to go ahead and put them in the freezer, right? We made that decision. And so it's really hard to make those decisions, to stick with those decisions. And I encourage you to look at your homestead, look at your skill sets, look at what you have going on, what you're wanting. You know, are you wanting chickens? You wanting sheep? You wanting goats? You know, donkeys? What do you want? And then while your brain is going to shy away from this, I recommend that you look at how to kill them. Again, I know. Nobody wants to think about that. I don't want to think about that, right? I don't want to think about how to kill an animal that's a pet, because let's be real, those goats are pets. I don't want to think about that. But I also know that if push comes to shove, we may have to think about that. And that's what happened with Amethyst. So, Jade, her mama's name was Ruby, and we bought Jade and Sapphire from a friend of mine in South Carolina. And we kind of sat on them for a couple of days without naming them. You know, there's Pogo Stick. You know, like we just hung out with them, and we wanted to keep the name theme going from Ruby because Miss Ruby had died. And so we wanted to kind of keep that going on. So we have Jade and Sapphire. And Jade had 2 babies. She had a black and white boy named Onyx, and he was so cute. Oh God, I wish I could have kept him. He had a pink nose, and he had he looked like a freaking Holstein cow. Super cute. And Amethyst was absolutely gorgeous, y'all. She had these pretty blue eyes. She had the super long ears. She was so precious. So we noticed that Jade was struggling to figure out what these things were that kept trying to, nurse. And she's just like, eh. And we tried everything that we could to get those babies bonded to her, and she just wasn't having it. And so we ended up having to pull them, and we sold Onyx as a bottle baby. And we were going to keep Amethyst. Like, she's absolutely gorgeous. I want her. And Jared agreed. And of course you get attached to them when you bottle them. And so, we bottled, everything was great. Sold the boy, everything was fine. We had Amy in the house with us, and I have pictures of her just, we would, come home from shift, and it was a long night, got up 2, 3, 4 times in the middle of the night. And so we nap during the day if that happens. And we try not to let it become a habit, but if we had a rough night, we come home and take a nap, And so I have pictures of both Jared and I on couch sleeping with a goat. And she was the best, y'all. Like, my husband, if y'all have never seen a picture of Jared, and I've got some on the website, and on our Instagram, if you've never seen him, he's kind of rough looking, right? He's got the man bun with the undershave. He's got tattoos, he doesn't smile for the camera. He looks kind of intimidating to those who don't know him. And here he is, just babying this goat, right? He loves this girl. So, anyways, I don't remember exactly where I stopped at. So we bottle fed this baby goat, and she was super cute, and I miss her terribly. And she had gotten into Mount Laurel. Now, I've talked to you guys, I believe it was on the how to do a goat assessment video or podcast. Wow. How to do a goat assessment episode. There we go. About Mount Laurel. Now, we have a ton of Mount Laurel on the property, and we try every single year as soon as as soon as all the leaves fall off, because that's the easiest way to find it. We start, getting cutting it down. And we had missed some, and Emmy found it. And so the best thing that you do is you give them activated charcoal, you give them some milk and mag, you give them, these various things to kind of help support them through it. And she did okay. She didn't do great, but she did okay. We got her through it. And because she's a bottle baby, she's not eating a lot of hay yet. We were having some issues. It wasn't great. And she was just kind of lethargic, right? And I'm not loving it. I don't like this. And we're supporting her. We're giving her the thiamine injections. We're giving her some Banamine to help it, with everything. And she took a turn. She started spiking a fever. So we'd give her some Banamine to pull the fever down. And then she would, it was a pretty high fever, like 106. And then we would, her temperature would drop. So now we've got her on the, the heating pad, and we're trying to warm her up. And then, then the Banamine would wear off and she'd spike a fever again. And so it was this constant struggle. She's getting dehydrated. She won't drink any milk. We're still giving her the thiamine to help with that. And it was this constant battle with her. And I forget, I came home from work. And I gave her an IV with some warmed fluids, and, gave her all of her meds for the day, and she tanked. We don't know what exactly caused her to tank. The only thing I can think of is the IV fluids, right? Because it's the only thing that changed. And I wasn't here the day before. So she tanked. I'm still trying to support her, still trying to pull her through, get her temperature up. Then it'd go back down and up and then down in fever, and it was all over the place. She began to lose vision and have muscle spasms and, all of these things. So I'm giving her more thiamine. I'm giving her, more, trying to help and out, doing everything I can. And I called Jared the next morning and I said, I'm going to take her to the vet. And he's like, why? What's going on? And I said, I'm gonna have them put her down. She's practically seizuring. She's not seizuring, but she cannot control her muscles. We're having all these issues. I told him everything that was going on. And he said, absolutely not. We're not spending $200 to have the vet put her down. I'll do it when I get home. And I was like, are you sure? And he said, yeah, I'm not doing that. And I was like, I cannot help you with this. I disagree with this. And he's like, I understand that you disagree. I'm going to handle this. You just stay in the house. And I kind of fought him on it. Now, I don't fight Jared on a lot of things. We've been married, 15 years. We've been together for 20, ish. I don't fight him on anything anymore. It's that part's not worth it to me because I don't need to fight you. And we talk about that in our other podcast, but he said he was going to do it. And to be honest with you, I really don't want to spend that $200 to put an animal down. It's not on my top 10 list of things to do. But I also know that they're going to do it in a way that is absolutely painless to her. And anyways, Jared made that decision and I said, okay. And so he did it. And we have a pet cemetery on our property that we put our pets. And he dug the hole. He, picked her up from the inside the house and, loved on her and talked to her and all of that. And I've said my goodbyes and everybody said their goodbyes. And he took her outside and he put her down. And as soon, I gave it a few minutes after I heard it, went out there and, give him a big old hug. He's bawling like a baby. And I'm crying, because it's you get so attached to these animals. And, that's the other thing that you're going to get attached to them. Even bacon, even though we processed bacon, he was still the coolest pig. Like, he was so sweet. But you're going to get attached. And we really got attached to Amy. She was a sweet, 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 sweet baby. And I looked at Jared after that and I said, I don't want any more bottle babies. Knowing full well that, we've had other bottle babies and they've all been fine. We've sold bottle babies and they've all been fine. And it's fine. But, you just sit there and you're like, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? And it was the Mount Laurel that did wrong. And, we did wrong by not getting all the Mount Laurel up. Although, in our defense, not that this is a defendable position, but it doesn't need to be defended. She found the regrowth. Because Mount Laurel, you have to basically keep it, hacked down. And it will regrow and it will continue to regrow. And you just have to keep hacking at it until you finally break the cycle enough that it won't come back. And she ate a leaf, one single leaf off of a regrowth before I caught her. And yeah, and that's that. And so, have a plan, know what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. I'm not going to sit here and get into the hows of each animal. Like that's unnecessary. And that's not what my podcast is about. That's not what my blog is about. The biggest thing that I want you to take away from this is knowing how to humanely put down animals that are in your care. Okay. Chickens are pretty easy. Ducks are pretty easy. Pigs are not easy. I don't know what. I know we are the second people. Well, wow. We are the second group of people that I know of that have as hard of a time putting these animals down, pigs down. But knowing how to do it is so important. Goats are actually relatively easy to put down. It's just hard. It's hard. It's hard for us because, we've raised most of these goats from babies. And we've sold quite a few, but we've kept more. We keep keeping goats and, we've got two withers that are castrated and, here in a couple months, one is going to go to the freezer and in about 6 months, the other one's going to go to the freezer. And I told Jared, I will not be a part of this. I will not help you. I won't help you with any of it because they are my babies. And he's like, that's fine. That is totally fine. And so in a different podcast, I will explain, you don't have to be good at everything. But today's podcast is death on the homestead and understanding that you have two priorities when it comes to owning animals. And this goes for dogs, cats. This goes for livestock. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you have two priorities with your animals. Number one is to keep them safe, happy, healthy, fed, whatever. Keep them alive. And then the other priority is to know how to put them down. And they are in complete opposite of each other, right? You're supposed to keep it alive. Now you're trying to, put it down. And I understand that, but if it can go right, it's Murphy's Law. If it can go wrong, it will go wrong. And when you have livestock, there are more things that can go wrong. And you need to be prepared that if that vet's not open and they won't come to you or you can't get to them, what are you going to do? Which plan? And that's more of what I'm talking about when I say putting them down. Like if you have an emergency vet that'll take a, 1,200-pound horse, okay. But you would be surprised at how many emergency vets are not going to take a horse that just broke its leg. You are going to have to handle that. And you need to be prepared to handle that. And if you are not prepared to handle that, you may need to reconsider having a 1,200-pound horse, or a 50-pound goat. And again, it's not a judgment thing. It's not you shouldn't have that animal if you can't. We're not doing that. It is just the reality that I am trying to bring to your attention, that sometimes these things are going to happen and you have to have a plan, because you don't want to be caught with your pants down trying to figure out how you're going to kill something while you're freaking out, the animal's freaking out, your kids are freaking out. That's just a bad place to be. So maybe let's be prepared before that day comes. I know it's kind of a downer of a podcast, and I'm sorry. But this is something that I'm truly very passionate about, because, I literally every third day I live if it can go wrong, it will go wrong. I live the emergencies where people don't know what they would do if. And when the if happens, they are totally unprepared. So I am telling you, be prepared, because that if is going to happen and you are going to be left out to dry. So, the best thing that, you can do is be prepared. The worst thing that you can do is not be prepared. So yeah, death on the homestead is never easy. It's really hard. It's a hard thing to deal with. We still struggle with Amy, both of us, Jared for having to put her down, and me for not figuring out what was wrong with her and fixing it. And that's something that we deal with. And I don't want you to deal with that. So anyways, have a good day, guys. Be sure to check out the show notes. I'll link to the blog and then all of our socials and all that. So I hope you guys have a good day, and I hope I didn't completely ruin it.